Even though I've had a number of doctors tell me that I have severe depression since I was a kid, I've always been kind of dismissive. I've been like, man, I don't got that shit. I'm just sad sometimes. Cause for me, it was always something. You feel me? Like they'd be like, why is this kid acting out? Some people would say that I'm acting out because I'm legally blind. Some people would say I'm acting out because I'm black. Some people would say I'm acting out because I'm albino. Some people would say I was acting out because I belong on the short bus. Some people was even just like, he's just a piece of shit. He's just a little piece of shit kid. That's why. And if look, if I'm being real, it's probably some truth to all of those. But if all that's already being said, man, I don't want to take on more shit. So even though I've always kind of known since they told me when I was a kid that I had some form of ADHD, I never really was like on the depression side. But with the inadvertent assistance of my girlfriend and in episodes of Scrubs, I think I've had depression for a while. So here's the thing. There's an episode of Scrubs where Carla has postpartum depression. If you don't know what postpartum depression is, you can Google it, you lazy bastard. In the episode, Carla was having problems with her baby. She ain't want that motherfucker. Like she got talking to Jordan, Dr. Cox's wife, and she was like, what's the worst thing you've ever thought about doing? And Carla was like, man, I thought about throwing her out the window. And then Turk was aghast. And then Jordan told Turk that if he didn't shut the fuck up, she was going to eat him. And then he shut the fuck up. And then she was like, yeah, when I had Jack, I thought about just, murdering him basically. And I've known people who've had postpartum depression and shit. And I've never thought that they were like faking it or like it wasn't real. It was some hormonal shit that gave them fucked up, intrusive ass thoughts, but didn't allow them to see them as thoughts in their head. And I was just like, wait, is that depression? And my girl was like, wait, yeah. Cause I've always had like fucked up, intrusive ass thoughts. Like one of the good things about having ADHD is that my brain can imagine any scenario, any single one, and it can put me in that scenario. So I can have the physical sensation of flying through space. My body will actually feel like I'm doing that thing, and I will get the emotions of that act. Unfortunately, I can also imagine the most negative thing in the entire world, and the same thing applies to my body. I thought that meant I was a piece of shit person. And it wasn't until my girl was like, no, that's the whole thing. You don't think that the postpartum depression chick really wants to murder her baby? And I was like, of course not. She was like, yeah, there you go. Since I also have ADHD and I overanalyze, and since I got fucked with so bad as a kid, people telling me I was bad and then having thoughts that I was bad made me like not be able to see anything but. Like it's crazy. There was a time last year that I was doing something that I've always wanted to do. I was in a situation that I always wanted to be in. It was like it was awesome. And I was miserable. I was fucking miserable. I remember talking to my girl and I was to the point where I was like, I should just quit comedy. Like I'm no good. I'm a piece of shit. But I was like, oh no, it's fine. It's fine. I'm not even tripping on. I'ma just quit comedy. It's the best thing for everybody. At the time I knew I wasn't happy, but I didn't think I was depressed at all. Months later, I was talking to my girl and she was like, yeah, you were really depressed then. And I was like, I wasn't depressed. And she was like, yeah, you were depressed. I was like scared. I was like, wait, word? And she was like, yeah, that's why I was kind of asking you. I was like, making jokes like, it'd be crazy if I just came out there to see you. I was like, oh, that's why you were saying that? I thought you just liked me. But then I started thinking about like literally some of the words that I was saying. I was like, oh shit, I was sad. But it also made me kind of happy because it was the first time that like I felt like I relate everything to movies and TV and shit. And it was that moment where the famous, like the really big dude, like he's at the concert and he just got off stage and he's like, man, this is supposed to be the greatest night of my life, but he's still fucking unhappy. But it's in a flashback and he's now talking to the camera and he was like, and that's when I realized that money and fame and fortune, that's all material. Like I had my version, my poor ass version of that moment. And it was like fun. Not the moment. The moment wasn't fun. That was, I ain't like that though. But just like realizing, oh fuck. None of the things can make me happy unless I'm actually happy. And you hear people say that shit all the time, but it doesn't make sense if you're already not happy. I realized this didn't really have a point. I was just ranting, really. I really just wanted to talk about Scrubs. I'm still not medicated for depression because I'm already, look, I just went on medicine for ADHD like last year, and I just went on medicine for anxiety this year. Genuinely did not know I had anxiety. Again, that's another... So I didn't know I had anxiety until I was talking to my girl. This motherfucker always be bringing up shit. And I was explaining to her, I was like, yeah, no. I was just having a problem the other day because you know the feeling when you get in like a really cold water and it shocks your system and it's hard to breathe and shit like that, and you like gotta really force the breaths out and shit like that, and you get kind of lightheaded and shit. And she was like, yeah. I was like, I just know breathing exercises to when that happens, I know how to stop that from happening and stuff. And she was like, how often does that happen? And I was like, oh, I mean, like that happens all the time, like all day. I just know how to regulate it sometimes. She's like, that's you're having multiple anxiety attacks every day. And I was like, no, I'm not. That's not what's happening. And she was like, yeah, that's exactly what you just described, anxiety. I was like, but I don't have anxiety. She's like, what you just described? I was like, no, but if I'm stopping them from happening, then I don't have anxiety. Now, I realize how dumb that sounds, but in my head, that makes perfect fucking sense, okay? If I bake the cake but don't have none of the cake, the cake, when I have, so you got cake and then you got invisible cake. And the invisible, I may have fucked this up. I may have messed up talking about cake. Anyway, I found out I had anxiety. And then I was mad because I don't want to believe that I had this. Man, I ain't got no anxiety. So I asked my moms and I was like, do I have anxiety? And she was like, Nathan, you've had anxiety since the first time we had you tested. They've been telling you have anxiety for your entire life, as have I been. And I was like, I don't believe you. Called my best friend Colt. I was like, yo, dog, you know what's crazy? I'm a motherfucking girl, and my moms think I got anxiety. And he was like, did you not think you did? I was like, what? He was like, did you think that you didn't have anxiety like this whole time? And I was like, no, I knew I had that shit. Talked to my therapist, and she was like, oh, 100%, 150,000%, severe anxiety and severe depression, actually. And even though we found that out last year, it still took my therapist another 8 months to convince me to get on the medicines and that, because I don't like pills. And while I do think that it is helping, poquito, I still didn't think I had depression until I thought about that goddamn episode of Scrubs. It kind of does make me feel some kind of way that it was postpartum depression that made me realize that I may possibly have some form of depression. But I think I'm much more comfortable with the fact that it was an episode of my favorite TV show. Ego.